Hey everybody, I'm here with bench press legend Jamie Harris. Very excited, want to do this interview for quite a while. And Jamie, I think, is sort of part of that forgotten era of bench pressing because we had one era like way back in the day of like Kaz and people like that was doing it raw. Then you have people, more nowadays that are benching more weight, but they're not nearly as strong raw. Where Jamie Harris, there's video of him on YouTube, doing reps with 660 to 2 reps of 660 raw. So someone very strong we can learn a ton from. And I grew up watching videos of him. I remember Jamie battling out with Anthony Clark and watching that in powerlifting videos. So thanks for coming on, Jamie.
Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it. I've been a big fan of yours as well. So,
Awesome. So that I remember the first time I really saw you lifting was on a powerlifting. Remember powerlifting video? And you
right.
were, and they had featured Anthony Clark one episode, then they had you on the next episode. And I was already a big fan of Anthony Clark. Then, they showed you, and it was really cool too. So it was like watching you guys
Right.
battle back and forth. And, I wasn't really rooting for anybody. I just thought it was cool to watch because I liked you both. But you were training back then at Pittsburgh Golds, right?
Yeah, it was owned by Jeff Wright. I started there probably like in 1993 and all the way until Jeff passed away in 94. And then I stayed there. So Jeff already passed away. Jeff was an APF legend. He was a state chairman. And
Yeah.
he was good friends with Ernie France. And he was sort of my mentor. And he died of pneumonia
Okay.
sometime in 94. So he never got to live to see me, set the world record and whatnot. But yeah, I stayed at Golds all the way up until 2000 when I got out of the sport.
And so what's your best official lift? Like best actually counted in a meet?
My best ever is 771.5.
And what were you hitting raw? Because I saw you do that video of 660 twice.
Um, my best, I did 710 in the gym raw.
Uh huh.
You know, Josh, I'll say this. There's a lot of disputes with this all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. Back in the 90s, the raw era or the craze in big bench presses wasn't a big deal.
No, true.
Yep. Wore equipment. Everybody wore shirts. And so, I mean, outside of Big James Henderson, which, he benched a huge 705 raw, there wasn't like a whole, as a matter of fact, I'm just trying to think. He was really the only raw 700-pound bencher, I think, at that time.
Hmm.
And there was really no motivation for me to want to bench 700 to me. I could sort of kick myself for not training for a raw meet to officially bench 700.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, but this, that, or whatever. You can't really go back in time and say I did the best I could with what equipment I had.
Sure.
With a bench shirt back then, you might get about 50 pounds with a really good
Yeah.
shirt.
And that's why I wanted to bring you on here because I think that's like I said, it's sort of like a forgotten era of people were getting 50 pounds on it. So okay, so you still look at how high those lifts were. Where most
Right,
people listening to this are going to be into raw benching. That's a thing right now, and the people are
right,
going to be listening to this. But that's my point is I want to like let people know, not to like talk about what could have been as much as like what we you actually did do. There's videos of you online doing that, so we know we can learn from you. It's not like you're not somebody benching like 1,000 pounds that did 450, and now you're trying to tell the raw benchers how to do it. No, you've actually done it. It doesn't matter if it was in a meet or not. It matters we can actually pick something up from it. So
right.
that's really cool. So
Well, I'm sorry, but what I did want to say was, and I have to say this, and I remember having this conversation with Anthony Clark sometime around probably 1998 or 99,
yeah,
and we were in the warm up room in the back after we were done and licking our wounds. You're bleeding out your nose and all this stuff,
yeah,
and you're taking things to the point of, there's no you're turning over every stone to be where you're at, and you're weighing 350, and you're doing everything that you have to do to be at this level. And we were sitting there talking, and we were just like, what's it going to take for someone to officially do, over 800 and whatever? We could not perceive or see till one day somebody would be benching 1,000 pounds, whether it be with the gear or not.
yeah,
Because, and the respect I have for gear lifters of that level is when you're taking that weight out of the rack, you have to hold that 1,000 pounds at arm's length.
sure,
I've never had anything close to that in my hand. So people say, well, Jamie, you have the shirts of today, you would have benched 1,100, 1,200. I mean, that remains to be seen. You know, I
I would guess you would, but I don't have a crystal ball.
right. You know, would I have done everything I could do to be at that level? Like if 1995, if you gave me a super duper phenom, I would have figured it out somehow and got what I could out of it. But I think the biggest thing is what people forget is you have to look at the progressions of the bench press. I'm a historian of powerlifting like yourself, which I think the problem is with a lot of these younger guys today. They're not really a historian of the sport. They don't really, dig back into the
Sure.
essence of like the 50s and 60s, like, legendary Pat Casey,
Yeah.
Doug Hepburn. These guys were the first guys to bench 500, 600. Jim Williams benching 675. Kaz, Orsidi. Orsidi was my hero. And
Okay.
actually, as a young man, Orsidi gave me a lot of advice over the phone. And I was this like ninth grade kid calling him up, bothering me.
That's
And he
cool.
took the time to talk to me. And I always, remembered him for that because I remember I used to tell him like one day I'll have that record. And he's like, sure you will, kid, whatever. But so, and then there was me and Anthony. And then it went on from there. I think it was Bill Crawford and Gene Rauschak and then Scott Mendelson. So the point I'm making is these progressions have to be made for someone to actually believe or be believable that they could be done. And I think that, the new shirts, there was a big jump from 800 to the, 900s and 1,000. It sort of like stalled out because people
Yeah.
were getting accustomed to these shirts. But, it's progression. It's all a great thing. I will always be a fan of the sport. And I applaud and tip my hat to all these guys. Like, Ryan Kennelly and Scott Mendelson and Tiny Meeker and I don't want to forget anybody else too. I think even Rauschak, which I personally didn't really get along with, but yeah, these guys are all they're pioneers like me and Anthony were, and Taylor Seedy was. It's just a progression.
And
And
let me
like
ask.
say, let me just say this one thing. I
Sure.
didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, Joy.
No, you're good.
One thing I did want to say, Julius Maddox with his 770 raw bench. I mean, to me, I really think that this guy is just out of control. I mean, that is a gigantic, huge
Totally.
raw from any era. That's ridiculous. Like, and that guy, he's young and I think he's big and he got what it takes to be, the first guy to bench 800 raw. It's ridiculous. I mean,
Sure.
that's fantastic.
So let me ask you more about your training though. So
Okay.
I remember watching you at the Gold's Gym. So that in Pittsburgh, and you were training more like a lot of bodybuilding movements too, right? It wasn't just like bench heavy and leave the gym. I remember you doing inclines and things like that after.
Josh, the thing with the gear training back then is you could order a bench press shirt, get it in the mail, put it on that day, and the thing would work. Okay, meaning you could get the bar to touch your chest.
Sure.
So a lot of with the shirts of yesteryear, you had to sort of rely more on your physical strength. That's where a lot of the bodybuilding movements came from. I patterned a lot of my stuff off Taylor Seedy.
So what did a week look like?
I'm sorry.
What did a week of training look like?
So basically, it would look like this. And because there is a difference between the off season. Now, again, you have to remember this too. Most of the time, most of the guys, and people could argue this point, but I know I did it. I didn't have that shirt on until 10 weeks before the meet. And so the rest of the time, and I usually did two meets a year. So, maybe 2 or 3 months, I don't have, I am lifting raw. You know what I mean? So I'm working on, like you said, these bodybuilding things. So I'll give you a rundown of what I believe.
Sure.
If I had 5 or 6 exercises to do to make your bench stronger, these are what I would. So on my chest day, of course, I would bench press. And then in the off season, I would do sets of 5. I base a lot of things on 5. My best set of 5 ever was it was 605 for a set of 5.
Wow.
And inclines were another huge lift. Pausing the incline on the bottom without bouncing it. I mean, you're asking for trouble. So stopping the bar dead with the pause and pushing it.
Yeah.
Medium to sort of closer grip to protect your pecs and really work your tries. Let's see. I was inclining around 600, I would say.
Yeah, you were repping 500 on that one of those videos I saw.
Yeah, those were earlier on, and that was like 95 when I was younger. So by the time 2000 rolled around, about 5 years into it, I was close to 6. I was like right around there.
Okay.
Yeah, that
you
was
look
sort
like
of
you were
like,
close to it back then, even.
Yeah.
By the way the weight was moving.
I don't really like to do inclines like sort of like wide because I just think you're putting your pecs in. Yeah, in a definite deficit where you could, get yourself hurt. And not in close grips, of course, after. And again, when you do all these exercises in one workout, of course, you can't do the shirt, And, you bring up that video in 95 when I doubled 705 and I jumped to incline, okay? That was a young, stupid mistake.
Yeah.
Because on the days I would do my shirt stuff, I would probably do some pressing, stuff like maybe skull crushers and do some close grip work.
Okay.
And I would knock out the incline because you're putting you can't do all that one day. But in the off season, like I said, I would do the bench, I would do the incline, I would do some close grips. And the last thing I would do is curl bar skull crushers to the nose.
To the nose.
And I 4 plates on each side.
You said to the nose, correct?
Yeah, I learned those from Heisey. That's how he showed me to do it. Like, pretty much, right here to the nose. You see guys up here behind the head and all that, whatever, but to the nose actually works the lower part of your tricep, the attachment. You hear Louis Simmons talk about that all the time, where you could look at a man and the attachment of his tricep to his arm and the way it's filled out and it's filled, you can tell if they're a good bencher or not. Sure. And I believe that. I definitely believe that. And so for back work, I did a lot of pull down work, a lot of bent over rows. I've been to 585 on bent over rows.
Wow.
And like I said, and the thing is, the funny part about it is, I've never been a big squatter or deadlifter. I get ripped on by my buddy.
I thought you were squatting like 800 or something at one time.
Yeah, I squatted. Well, I squatted actually 905 in a meet.
Okay.
Being a super heavyweight, I'm not saying that's not good, bad, whatever. But so when I was bent over rowing 585, I don't even know what the heck I could have deadlifted. But see, I believe in bent over rows for bench pressing because it's like a reverse bench press, right?
For sure.
You're taking the bar to your stomach, and like I said, it's reverse bench press. So that, and I tell you what, I never really believed too much in, and RCD did a lot of these, is behind the neck presses. I always thought that, heavy pressing, bench pressing, whatever, and then going in and doing some, behind the neck presses or front presses was just too much. And a lot of side lateral work and a lot of rear delt work. I tell you, in 95, 96, I spent some time at Westside talking to Louis and stuff, and he showed me a lot of assistance work for like upper back and like rear delts and whatever, and I got a lot from that. And I've always kept that like on the pec deck, like the reverse pec deck with the rear delt.
Yeah.
I got a lot from that. All the lateral work, like that he talks about, the lateral work's imperative. I mean, you have to get that in. I don't think so much the front delt, the front raises, because you're getting that when you bench press.
Sure.
That's more of a bodybuilding type thing. But the side and rears, man, I mean, those are super important. And I would push myself to go as heavy as I could go. I remember doing 100 pounds. Now, this is in the off season. When it came time to get in the shirt, like 10 weeks out. And my progressive cycle, just say with reps, what I would do is, I would start at triples and work my way down to doubles till the end, because there's no use of really doing reps, high reps in a shirt, right?
Yeah,
and I would do like that 705 double I did at Gold's in 95. I was getting ready for Inzer's Greatest Bench in America meet when me and Anthony were going head to head. And I actually doubled 740 before that meet.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that was my first big meet. And, when you become that person, like, before that meet in March of 95 when I benched 740, I was pretty much, like, I don't say a nobody, but, people on the East Coast knew who I was. But, you're not that person yet. And then, when you set the world record, you're thrown into this world with these giants, right?
Right.
Anthony Clark, who was my hero growing up, wants to tear my head off now because I took what belonged to him. So, when you lift in these big meets and you're lifting against people of that caliber, it's sort of, it's a lot. I think you got to get kicked in the face a couple of times going to these big meets to understand that, there's a big difference between lifting, home cooking in a local meet or your gym or
Yeah.
going to something of that caliber. Because that meet was that was the biggest meet I've ever
Tell,
seen.
tell us about that meet. I've heard just stories about that meet of Andrew's baddest bench in America. It's pretty cool atmosphere and stuff.
I tried to talk John into probably trying to run something like that again, but at this point, he just obviously doesn't have any interest, but just doesn't have the time to do it. Because John used to run the deadliest deadlift, and I think it was like the biggest bench or something like that. But this one was like the Super Bowl
Okay.
of bench pressing.
Where was it? In Dallas or Longview or where?
In Dallas, yeah. John Injured Vance is on as Longview.
Yeah.
It was in Dallas, the
Okay.
Majestic Theater, downtown
Wow.
Dallas. And I'm a big fan of the TV show Dallas, so I got a chance to go see South Fork while I was there.
Cool.
Yeah, but anyway, this was my first big outing, and here this is like the biggest meet probably. And people could argue this, but for the time, and I'd have to say even beyond the time, you might be able to compare those to the Hawaiian meets of the '80s.
Yeah, great meets. Yep.
But yeah, and you know how big those meets were, right?
Right.
But this meet, I'm telling you, Josh, it was the biggest bench meet in the world. You had everyone there. The only people that weren't there, they just decided they want to go with Chris Confessori for whatever reason, and James Henderson because he didn't wear a shirt. And I don't know, what happened. I think John invited them. They just didn't want to come. But you had everybody there. And like I said, you put it all out on the line right there at this meet. You walk out to the bench and you're looking out in the crowd. And there's like 10,000 people out there, right? Like it was definitely for me. It was, because they built that thing up like the good guy against the bad guy, like the evil me against the God-fearing Anthony, and that. And listen, I love Anthony. We, at the end we were really good friends, but like that Powerlifting USA cover with me on the motorcycle. That wasn't even my motorcycle. I've never owned a motorcycle. That was a friend of mine who was lifting at the gym that day, and they're like, "Hey, man, it'd be cool to, like that bad boy bench thing, right?" None of that stuff is mine.
That's
I'm
hilarious.
like a big nerd, and like all of like the hype that everyone, like I'm, just my attitude. When a lot of that was hype and trying to build up me and Anthony and like the pro wrestling good against evil thing.
Yeah.
And so I was all caught up into it, just 24-year-old kid, and I got down there. Anthony, he beat me. So, I come back at the IP Nationals a year later and beat him, and finally I beat him in that Mountaineer thing. And, we went back and forth, and there's a lot of people that say that, Anthony was the first guy to bench 8, and, if I'm not going to sit here and talk sour grapes on Anthony, especially because he's passed away, but that whole thing there was a lot of stuff that went on, and I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about him, but I feel that that feud between us was vicious, and it drove both of us on to be better lifters. But as a person, I can really tell you, I really liked Anthony. And when he passed, I was really grief stricken when Anthony passed, because it felt like a part of me, and because if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have pushed the levels I pushed to. And then after we were done, and I got out and I got hurt. What ended me was I tore my pectoral muscle in 2001. I ripped it right off the bone. And I was having health issues, blood pressure, the typical stuff super heavyweights have.
Yeah.
And I just, the pec tear was really the big one. And I decided to get out, I ripped it on my left side.
What were you doing?
As 615 for 75, raw. And then on the 5th rep, I ripped it right off the bone.
Yeah, wow. What was the whole power scene in Pittsburgh like in the 90s? Was it pretty big or no?
Oh, it was tremendous. It was tremendous.
I've heard that.
Jeff Wright ran meets all the time. Another good friend of mine, Mark Prince from Canonsburg, he used to run APF meets. And Pittsburgh at that time was pretty much APF and IPA run. It was gear lifters and, drug lifters and whatever. But at Prince's in September, and it was this little armory down in Canonsburg, right? And they would fill that place every September to just meet with the best lifters in Western Pennsylvania. It was that was the first meet I ever did. I was like 14 or 13 when the first annual one we did. And then probably like, oh God, 12, 13 years later, I tried my first 700 there, and that was the last one they ever did.
Okay.
Maybe not that long, 7. I do my math, 10, 12. You know how years go by, but
Sure.
And then Jeff Wright ran APF Senior Nationals in Pittsburgh for 3 years in a row. Jeff was very politically inclined in the APF, which opened up a lot of doors for me. Because I got to meet a lot of people as a youngster, and when I was really nobody. I mean, I spotted and loaded the APF Senior Nationals,
That's
right?
cool.
And to me, that was I tell these young guys, like, you run meets, people don't want to spot and load, right? Like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, to me, these are the people I'm seeing in Powerlifting USA every month, right? I'm going to actually get to spot and load for these dudes, right?
No better way to see the action, yeah.
Exactly. You're right there watching. I mean, I think I actually spotted Anthony on I think he tried like 725 or something, whatever. But yeah, a lot of great memories. Pittsburgh now, though, it's horrible. I had a.
What about Dan Kovacs? Was he active yet, or was that before him?
Dan Kovacs. Me and Dan Kovacs are pretty good friends. I can tell you,
before him,
you saw in the video, Dan was my liftoff guy for a lot of me.
Yeah.
Incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Intense. He's one of the funniest guys you've ever met in the world.
Okay.
Biggest rip artist you've ever met. You just never want to be on the receiving end of any of his rips. Gotcha. But he's way fun. But Dan, I was brought up in the sport with Dan. Dan and me and that crew with Jeff Wright were all brought up together. And Dan's done some incredible lifting.
Yeah.
Even with gear. And then Dan turned raw. And Dan, we're not spring chickens. And, I'm 50 and Dan's a year younger than me. And Dan's still up to last year, a couple of years, man. He's been going at it, But I think Dan, he squatted close to a grand back in the day, and he benched, with the new shirts, like 750. But the biggest thing, Dan, he raw benched 630, I think it was. Something
and he
like
totaled 2,400 or something at the IPA Nationals, like 99, 2000, something like that, right?
Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that was always impressed me about Dan was he had incredible grip strength. And he would do pull downs and stuff and shrugs with no straps, and do incredible amounts of weight. This is a guy who doubled 840 in the deadlift.
Yeah.
And like barbell curls, I watched him do 315 for sets and crazy shit. And but I haven't seen Dan. Someone just asked me the other day about him, and I haven't seen him in 10 years. Like I said, we go so far back, we're sort of there's been bad times between us and there's been good times. I think a lot of it's the professional jealousy stuff. But it all comes down to it. I love Dan. He's, and he's a good guy. He's been through a lot like myself. I mean, we're definitely crazy individuals. And, but yeah, I hope he's doing well. I thought I saw, I was watching the IPA, the podcast or whatever, when they run nationals every year, and he was lifting last year. So apparently he's still at it. So
he's still at it as of at least 6 months ago.
Yeah, right. He loves powerlifting.
Yeah, he does.
I love it, but I have too many other things in my life.
What are you doing? Are you doing the Elvis impersonating stuff still, or is that?
So yeah, I'm getting back into it. So let me tell you.
See, I think that's cool because this is interesting because, you hear the typicals, your powerlifter becomes a personal trainer and the rest is history. This is interesting. So that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I spent some time in pro wrestling. And
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I sort of screwed that, right? At all connections in the world. And, and I just, like I said, I just had too many irons in the fire doing stuff. I'm going to tell you a real quick story. It's in my book. I just wrote my autobiography, and I'll tell you about that. One of the parts of the book was when I first set the world record. And again, this is coming from I live in a 2-room apartment in this little town in Pittsburgh called Charleroi. It's like Mayberry, right?
Okay.
So I'm just this typical musclehead dude, young kid. So then, you set the world record in the bench press, and your phone rings off the hook after, right? So I come home from work one day, and there's remember, you didn't have cell phones back then. They had answering machines.
Sure.
Young guys, right? So I'm getting a call, and one of the answers like, "Hey, man, this is Jim Hellwig. I'm opening up a wrestling school up in Arizona. I just saw you in Iron Man magazine, and I want to know if you want to come up and train. I'll train you for pro wrestling." Now, for you guys who don't know who Jim Hellwig is, it's the Ultimate Warrior, okay, the legendary warrior. So I'm thinking my buddies are pranking me. As a matter of fact, I thought it was Kovacs up there.
Okay.
The area code, and it's
Yeah.
like an area code. So I called him up, and like I was a huge wrestling fan growing up, which a lot of us were,
Yeah, of
big
course.
wrestling fan. And I think that's how, a lot of my interest and strength was as a young boy. But, I just told him, like, look, I want to be the first guy to bench 800 and I'll get back to you and stuff. And because I was under the impression that you can make a lot of money off powerlifting. Now, mind you, I'm young. This is my first out ever. So you learn as you go that, you could do okay in powerlifting. Like, I was on the heap on the top, so to speak.
What did you do for a job during that time?
I worked, and Dan worked there too. We worked in a juvenile detention prison.
Oh, wow.
Human center, yeah, and that's where I got my start at.
Okay.
And I worked there for like 15 years, and then I worked for a nutritional supplement place called Advanced Genetics, and Anthony actually worked for them too. So another funny story in the book. I was there for like 6 months. I left the jail to get this job at this supplement place in Pittsburgh. And they were like a nutritional supplement wholesaler, right?
Right.
They called me in the office one day, like, Jamie, I got news for you. Like, hey, we just hired Anthony Clark to come work. And this is like right in the middle when all this stuff's going on, like 96, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's not going to be any problems between you two, right? So we worked in the same office like for like 2 weeks together. And you can cut the tension with a knife. Like he's sitting at one desk and I'm working the other. And I remember coming home telling my wife, like, I'm going back to the jail. Like, screw this, whatever. And here we end up one day. I came in on a Saturday to get something out of my desk, and there he was. And we just started talking. And 3 hours later, we were at Ponderosa at the all-you-could-eat bar, cleaning out the steak stuff. And
that's awesome.
Ever since, we were good friends. So, yeah, but I worked in juvenile detention. And then I worked for the supplement place back and forth, and I was in pro wrestling for a little bit. But they always told me, like, when I left to do these ventures, I could always come back to the jail because they liked me. So then I finished my criminal justice degree in probably like 2012 or 13, and I was a probation officer. I was a juvenile probation officer. And then until this unfortunate incident, I'm sure a lot of you heard of, in 2014. And I got divorced and so it changed the life stuff. And then I went back to nursing school. So I have my nursing degree.
Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah, that's what I do now.
Okay.
But in 2000, I want to say from 2001, I started doing Elvis. But I made a very good living doing Elvis. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you're just doing Elvis for fun and stuff. Believe me, I love Elvis and I love Elvis music. I spent, Josh, more time working on Elvis, the vocals, the look, the jumpsuits. I got down to like 2:30. About making the money, corporate shows. I played at Graceland before, like all these big. I was going out maybe 10, 12 times a month, like these bigger shows. These corporate things, like $1,000 a show, whatever. So I was making a lot of money doing Elvis.
Are you going to start doing that again?
I'm sorry?
You start doing that again?
I am. You know what? Like, when I got divorced, I sort of put it on autopilot, and I moved back to my hometown again, which was sort of a mistake. I just got sort of depressed, and I after all the stuff that happened, I just sort of wanted to be out of the public eye for a little bit and whatever. So I got back into powerlifting. I got around a few of my old buddies again, and they're like, "Hey, man, we could train out of your garage," and I got all the power stuff from my old gym, and we just started training again. And I quit worrying about carbs, and I just it's not hard to get big again. You know that as you get older, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I know I'm 310, 315, so
what's the most you've ever weighed?
I'm sorry?
What's the most you've weighed ever?
The most I've ever weighed, I remember at IPA Nationals in 97, I weighed 371. There's a lot of stories I weighed 400 and stuff. That's not true. I don't think I could ever hold 400 on my frame.
How tall are you?
I am 6 foot even.
So what did a day of eating look like? Because people always talk about bulking up. Like, how much did you have to eat to get up that big?
So one of the things, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day because I'm very like astute now, like as far as I'm trying to take this body weight off.
Yeah.
And I took like 40 pounds off like in the past month, and it won't be hard to get back down to 230 again. I'm not worried about that because I've done this before and I understand the diet. So let's reverse this. As a 25-year-old when you're trying to put weight on, right? I think that there's a better way. And if I would have the clock over again to turn it, I would do things a lot different as far as just force feeding pizza and steak hoagies and all this junk and stuff. And, I don't want to say I ate bad, but I really didn't eat clean.
So what was it like? Give us an example. This is interesting.
So like after we got done lifting, me and Kovacs would go out and eat like a whole 16 cut pizza and a steak hoagie, and French fries, just like go out with my wife on the weekends and just, I mean, it's almost gluttonous, and like I said, the funny part about it was I struggled and I drank a lot of my meals too, like, protein shakes and weight gainers and stuff. Like Anthony Clark had this product called Up Your Mass. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So Up Your Mass, here's what we used to do with Up Your Mass. There was already like 3,000 calories in a pitcher full of this stuff, right? So I was like, Anthony had this recipe on the back of the the can. So it was like molasses and honey and ice cream and peanut butter and whole milk. And there was a couple other things I can't remember. And this stuff tastes like crap, like with all of it together, right?
Yeah.
But I would force feed that thing every day. Like I would eat my regular food, and then throughout the day I would sip on this protein shake. And it put like lots of weight on me, like lots of weight.
For sure.
And when you're young, like you have a hard time putting that weight on. Not so much now at 50, man. I could look at something and put 5 pounds on. And it really scared me to believe, I just stopped getting on the scale, and I'm like, oh, I can't be 300. I got to be like 260 or 70. Next thing you know, man, you look and, and look, I'm not even really lifting heavy. I have a lot of injuries. I got C7 stuff in my neck, and I'm just beat up. Even like on the level that I was doing with, I was squatting in 700s, and my bench, I can't really bench anything now because of the C7 stuff, but I do it because I love it. And now it's about getting lean and getting in shape again. So, with the abuse I put on myself, I'm just doing the best I can now. At least now if I get lean and get back down to 240, and I just want to look good and feel good now. I've done everything that I possibly could do. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me?
Yeah. Did my video go out?
No. I see you fine.
Okay. So basically, I mean, I'm pretty much done, as far as competing. But to get back to the diet stuff, I'm just going to tell you, like, there was no limit on, I'm really not a candy eater, but I'm talking like pizzas and hamburgers and, like we used to have contests to see how many Whoppers we could eat one time. And it sounds good, like to put weight on stuff, but I just think there's a better way to do it. My last cycle, when I benched 771, I got with a nutritionist, and I only got up to like 351 for this contest. And I really just destroyed the protein. And that was the hardest and the leanest I ever looked.
And you felt a lot better?
Yeah, I was about 351. I looked really good. Listen, you only look so good at 350, but I had 25-inch arms. And, I was definitely at the peak of, my lifting, whatever. And then I got hurt like 6 months after that. But I definitely and I'm even seeing this now, like, when I lost the weight for Elvis and stuff, nutrition plays such an important part, and you just got to discipline yourself to do it. And like I said, some people, they're good at the discipline thing, and they look at the, I was watching this podcast Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing. He's like, what's more important, like the taste of eating this coconut cream pie or winning this contest down the road? And I guess that's really how you have to look at it.
Depends who you are, right?
Yeah. And if you're really hungry enough to be, I turned over every stone to who I was. There was no, I'm not going to say I didn't have natural ability. I'm sure my white twitch fibers and stuff are
Yeah, of course.
ordinary compared to others, but I turned over every.
You're the best in the world. You got to have some good genetics, right? No matter how, but you have to
Oh, yeah.
work hard. Yeah, of course.
I'm going to say, like, people are like, well, he has short, my arms are pretty long, Josh. I don't really have short arms. My arms are pretty
Well,
long.
even if
I
you do,
learned how large
almost
or
every
big.
good bencher in powerlifting does. So I mean, that's why aren't they benching as much? So I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you do the things you need to do, right? And you're a student of the game. And I think, listen, I'm going to say this, and the viewers out there, young guys,
Mm-hmm.
people think I don't like the young guys, like the millennials,
No.
Right. Well, I've had some heat with some guys on some of these message boards, and here's the point of what I'm going to try to make to these guys, because a lot of them don't listen. They don't understand what I'm trying to say. So one of the things that I said was, and Louis says this all the time, that you should try to learn as much as you can on your own, like taking advice from people who have experience. There's too many guys out there today selling workouts and whatever who haven't done really anything. You could tell by how someone looks and the numbers they've
Of
done,
course.
right? Whether they know something about strength or not. And so, the big deal is to keep your mouth shut and listen, and that's how you get better.
Of course.
I don't necessarily feel that you need to, and this is just my opinion. People can believe what
We
they
came
want.
here to get your opinion, so give it to us.
Okay. Well, as far as like hiring a personal trainer, back in my day when I was a young kid, I didn't have the money to hire a personal trainer. I read every powerlifting magazine or Powerlifting USA that came out. I was lucky enough to have Ted Orsini. He didn't ask me for anything. He helped me, and I listened to what people told me. But I also think that you need to listen to people, but you also need to listen and look at yourself and learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And don't just throw your training in someone's hands and say, train me, take care, you have to be able to train yourself to some point and know what works and what doesn't work. And I took some heat over that when I made the comment about getting a personal trainer. And all I really meant is to take responsibility for your own training. And people are like, well, you're old and, you did your shit 25 years ago and whatever. I'm just saying I've been around long enough. And like I said, and I mentioned like, well, I had the world record in the bench press, and they were comparing my Schwartz numbers to theirs and someone else's and whatever. I'm thinking like, okay, the respect factor is not there. And I try to be respectful back to some point, but when you talk to someone like that, like, listen, I'm trying to help you. If you don't want my help, a lot of times, Josh, I probably should keep my mouth shut and, don't help someone unless they ask for the help. But I do like to train people, and I've trained a lot of lifters in my day at the gym because I try to give back to the young guys because I was a young guy once, and you were a young guy once. And someone showed Josh and someone showed Jamie, what to do, right?
Sure.
And so that's how I look at it. And I feel that I try to be helpful, but a lot of times these young guys don't want your help. So
You just got to be helpful to people that want your help.
they want your help, And like I said, do I have all the answers? No, I don't. And I particularly, a lot of world class lifters from the past, like people like, oh well, they're just, they're salty and they're old and they're crotchety because they're not there anymore. That's the first and the truth. I had my time of being on top, and I look at these guys who are there today, and I applaud them because I know what it takes. Like, you can't be there forever.
Sure.
Everyone has their window of time. I remember Ed Cohen saying that before, and it sticks in my mind that he said this. He said that no one will ever be bigger than the sport of powerlifting. People come and people go, but nobody will ever be bigger than the sport, right? Because it's true. And that's how you have to look at it. And I've had my time, and I love the sport. I will always love it. I have great memories. And I got to, like, be at the level I was at. Do I have regrets? I mean, I have some. Not being the first guy to officially bench 800, but, I did everything I could do to get there, and I came up short. So what do? You just move on, And so even this time when I came back around, you sort of forget, like, how the rigors it puts on your body and stuff. And I think when you're a master, and I look at some of these masters, I don't know how they do it because I am just tuckered out, Josh. I'm beat up. I just think now I'm like doing
Well, I
the
think a
body.
lot of it has to do with what they did before. You know what I mean? Because you only got so many miles you can put on a car, and like
I
your
believe,
body.
right?
So if you start this up at 40 years old, at 50 you're going to be your best.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, from head to toe, I have a checklist of stuff that I've done and torn, ripped and torn, and surgeries on this, and staph infections from bad shots, and all sorts of stuff. And definitely, when you're younger, you can withstand that stuff. And I'm having some health issues right now, and not serious ones, but enough to make me say, "Hey, man, look, you need to start taking care of yourself." And
So you dropped
you
some
look at
weight now.
50, and then 60's coming up, in 10 years. You think to yourself, like, where am I going to be? Like, so you need to start taking care of yourself. And I just needed that reality slap in the head, I think, to get me back um, to that. Because I think with a lot of us guys, when the excitement's over, it's tough to watch other people do what we used to do and not be able to do that anymore. And you just need to find other stuff in your life, And like I said, I find myself being a fan of powerlifting and watching these other guys, and I like live vicariously through them. Like Joyce Maddox, I just think that's the greatest thing in the world, man. I mean, I just like really that was just to me
Yeah.
that's like probably the most unbelievable bench press feat that I've ever seen. Raw 770 bench is just unreal. I mean, look, Josh, that's what I did with a shirt. Even so, it was the shirt of the '90s. I mean, it's ridiculous. So
Amazing.
yeah.
So you anything else you basically wanted to? I'm going to make sure we get everything in because I pushed back my appointment a few minutes. I told you about earlier, but got about 5 minutes left. Anything else you want to get in here before you? Because
Yeah,
when's your book come
I,
out?
I just want to talk about my book a little bit. So I just wrote my autobiography.
Okay.
It's a book about my powerlifting life, my life in powerlifting, my life in pro wrestling, and my life as a world class Elvis impersonator.
Okay.
And I reached pretty high levels. The lowest level I would say is pro wrestling because I never made it to the WWF. But the other two, I made it like on a world class level. I was ranked seventh in the world in the Elvis thing. Um, Down in Memphis.
I knew you did it. I didn't realize you were that accomplished. I mean, I didn't think any reason not to think it. I thought you should more for fun. I didn't realize you were making a bunch of money. That's cool.
Tons of money. Well, the better you become. But I've done shows with somebody else's real backup singer. They just don't do that with anyone. But Josh, it's like anything else, whether it's powerlifting, horseshoes, pro wrestling, or tiddlywinks. The time and effort you put into something is how you get better at something, right?
Right.
I don't care who you are. If you really want to do something, if you put your mind to it and put the steps in and take the time and do it right, you're going to get better. And that's what I did. I spent 15 years with Elvis becoming better. But the name of my book is called An Entertaining Iron Man. It's going to be available here very soon.
Where?
It's going to be an audio book for right now.
But where are they going to buy it? On Amazon from you or what?
It's going to be, well, you know what? It's going to be on Venmo.
Okay.
And so links, I don't even have the website up yet because we're just on the verge of finishing everything up. But it will, and they kept pushing the day back, and then with this virus thing going on, it pushed it back a little more. But it's going to be available here in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So you can check me out on Facebook, just Jamie Harris on Facebook, and the link will be on there. But maybe like on your site or something, I can give you a link when it comes out.
For sure.
But again, it's called Entertaining Iron Man, and very, an inspirational read, even if you're not a powerlifter.
Well, also when it comes out, let me know. We can put a link at the bottom of this video too, so people can get it.
Okay. But I lived a very crazy life, with all the things I've done, and very fulfilled. And so who knows? Who knows what's next for the future? I don't know. I don't know what's going to be next. One last thing I'd like to say is I hope everyone's doing well with everything going on. And I would tell you, I'm very lucky, and I shouldn't even say this. I have my own gym in my house, so I really can't complain. And I know a lot of you guys aren't training right now, and you're disgusted, and you're depressed, and you have pressures going on in the outside life. And but listen, I will say about the lifting stuff. sometimes it really is good to take a little break and give your body a break. And I know right now it looks like you're getting weak and whatever and stuff, but take care of you, take care of your family, take care of your business, take care of your money,
Like,
because you could always come back to the lifting stuff. That's always going to be there for you. And believe me, I know. And like with that crap that happened with me, and you read about in the book, I spent 7 months in jail, and I spent it away from lifting, which was,
I don't know about this.
you know about this. Well, it's a long story. You're not gonna you have to read about it in the book, but it was sort of over an incident I had with some local cops about the gym, and it got physical, and that was it. So it's dumb on my part for getting involved, but this happened about 3 years ago.
Were you training much when you were in jail?
No, not at all. Because I was in jail. I wasn't in prison. Like in jails, they don't have weights at all.
No, I meant like body weight and push-ups and stuff.
Oh. I did the best I could.
Yeah.
With my neck stuff, like I'm not really good with push-ups. I was doing like sissy woman push-ups, like all my stuff. And I did a lot of crunches. I'm very conscious about the ab work, like with Elvis, like in a jumpsuit. You see, I did the best I could. It took me about, but when it came back quick in 3 months, it came back pretty quick. I mean, not like I'm some high level, but sometimes I'm saying is, if you're pushing all the time and you're sore and you're beat up, maybe it's good sometimes to get away.
I actually agree. When I was competing, looking back on it, like you said, what Gretzer, I wish I would have sometimes done time off. I never did more than if the meet was on Saturday to the Thursday. I've never done longer than 5 days when I was competing.
Rest is key.
Yeah.
We really didn't touch a lot on training, but my training's pretty basic. It's about, rest was a big key. Deep tissue, steam, sauna, chiropractic care, supplementation.
What kind of supplements?
You know what? Truly, I'm not saying believe in anything. Whatever. Here's what I'm saying. What I did: protein, of course.
Of course.
Fish oil to help your heart, and a good multivitamin. And then, like back in the day, I threw some glutamine in for recovery. But a lot of it is staying hydrated, drinking lots of water. But again, like that deep tissue and chiropractic care, to me, meant a lot. I tell you another thing too. It's sort of old school, and I don't think people believe it as much anymore. I really believe in ice. Ice in your shoulders, ice in your triceps. I used to come to work with these big, hefty bags and fill them full of ice down with the ice container at work, and just put my triceps in there for like 45 minutes. They were red, and it really helped so much. I can't even tell you, like that ice just breaks that swelling down. But just that kind of stuff. But again, like I said, rest, and sometimes rest is just what it is. Rest, active rest, doing some cardio, taking a walk, cutting your grass. I mean, doing that kind of stuff. I mean, it does your head a world of good. Sometimes you just need to get out of that gym for a while. And and the last thing that I'll say, in 2001, I remember when, and this is right around the time I tore my pec, when 9/11 happened, it made me realize that powerlifting is just a game, because we all could have been wiped out in such a quick amount of time, right? Nobody was sure what was going to happen with that. And you think about it, like, man, I spent my whole life pushing big weights up, and in the reality of the world, what's it really matter? And I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but I'm saying about the grand scheme. So what I'm saying is this is going on right now. This is something we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is what you sort of want to pay attention to right now. And I know you're cooped up in your house. Everyone's cooped up in their house, whatever. Try to make the best of it. Do the best you can. I pray for you. I hope all you guys, I hope everyone is okay. And if this is affecting you in any way, like, again, my prayers to you. And like I said, just stay safe and take care of each other.
I actually do have one more question, if that's okay. Yeah, I want to know some other like feats of strength you've done, like outside of the bench press. So you mentioned the bent over rows at 585, just lateral raises with 100 pounds, like just some of those kind of lifts. That's pretty cool to like know those references.
So like I said, incline was like I did like 600. I think I did a 605. You know what? I kicked myself in the butt for not recording some of this stuff because it sounds like bullshit.
Nobody did back then though.
Right. I did a 615 close grip. So when me and Kovacs do close grip, he was very adamant about middle finger around the smooth, like in them old power bars,
Oh
like with the
wow.
smooth starts. So we close grip pretty close. Four plates on each side on skull crushers. We had a special lap machine made, a plate loaded lap machine, where I don't know how much I mean, we were doing like 400. I don't know.
A
We
lot.
used a lot of plates. Um, I was never really a great presser, but when I was in pro wrestling, I used to do a lot of standing presses in the rack, like just standing and doing overhead presses. And I did like 405 over my head. And I mean, I don't think that's any great feat of strength compared to like a lot of guys are good at all that stuff. But for me, that was pretty good.
Well,
I've
it's
done
really good for
barbell
not doing
curls
it
like,
regularly.
yeah, that's not bad. I've done barbell curls like um, 275. But you know what, Josh? I'm not really a great, and I've never claimed to be like any of this stuff. Like, I'm not really a great grip guy. And I'm not saying I'm not strong. Like, squat and deadlift, I was relatively strong. I pulled 700 before, and, I squatted 9 with gear and whatever. But I was never anything super out of the ordinary, whatever. And, like, especially like with grip strength and stuff, I never was super good. Just, I don't know. Like, bench press was always my thing. And, I'm, a lot of times probably well, you're not a real power lifter, you're a bench specialist. I mean, I'll take that.
Okay.
But like in college, I competed in squat and deadlift. I squatted like 700 in college, and I sort of gave it up because I was a shot putter in college, and that's why I was squatting and deadlifting. And I was a mid 50 thrower with a 16 in
Oh wow.
college, and which is pretty good. I mean, it's pretty good, I'd say. Um, but
Yeah,
then
it ain't
again,
gonna win
when I
the
started
NCAAs, but it's gonna win most dual meets. That's for damn sure.
55.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand. I went to California University, Pennsylvania, so that was NAIA. It was like Division
Yeah.
three.
I know it.
So that was like the biggest thing walking. Like, but you go to Division one, these guys are throwing. Like I know, I don't remember his name, Larry Pacifico's son. He was like a 60-foot thrower in high school, and I think he was throwing like in the mid 60s with a 16. I mean, that's incredible. Like
Yeah,
I love.
my brother actually won the NCAAs in shot put. He threw like 67, 6.5, I think. It was at
Holy,
USC.
wow.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like I've never even seen that before. I'd love to see someone throw like close to 70-foot throw. That's to me that's incredible,
It's insane, yeah.
isn't it? Really? I mean, and I spent a lot of time in high school and college trying to get better, but I just to me, I don't know. Like we really have good coaches. My technique was sort of like crappy, but I was I was strong. But I always was a big fan of track and field. Like but just never. Like I had my hands and I played football in high school and college too. So I did a little bit of everything. But bench press was what my calling was. And actually I made gains pretty quick because I was a 400-pound bencher in high school, and then in college I started experimenting with the chemicals and whatever. And I had my shirt bench. Actually, when I was a senior, I was benching 600 with a shirt. So
Wow.
yeah, so I knew that I was getting relatively close. So I stopped squatting and deadlifting and throwing and everything because I knew that if I put a couple more years in, I could be in contention. And I was because I benched 740. I was like 24 or 25. I was pretty young. I was
Yeah.
pretty young. And so, that's where it all went. But, I mean, am I a good athlete? I would say I'm an average athlete. I'm nothing fantastic. And, I ran like a 5 flat 4.940 at like 260 in high school. I
That's
mean,
good.
nothing fantastic, but I was a pretty good athlete. But for whatever reason, somehow I excelled in the bench press. I just think a lot of it was desire. And I've all through when I was like 13, 14 when I started, all through high school, if I played something, I always lifted weights still and whatever. And I had good tutelage. Of course, I had Taylor C to help me. I had the guys at Golds who all were experienced lifters, like national, and some of them were world class. So I was brought up around good people. I think
Good.
that's important. And the atmosphere, right? When you're in a good atmosphere around people who train in gear and whatever who are going to help you know what they're doing. So I was very blessed. I don't really have any regrets. as far as any of that's concerned. So I was surrounded by good people, like Dan Kovacs. When you have a liftoff guy like that, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
I
awesome.
mean, he's like, well, I'll tell you real quick. Another guy that I used to have lift off to me all the time when Dan couldn't make it was Gary Heisey. So for you young guys who don't know who Gary Heisey was, before Andy Bolton pulled his first 1,000, Gary had the world record for like 20 years,
It's
like
a long time, yeah.
9:25 or something like that. It was something like that. But Gary used to lift off for me, and it was just like hydraulic crane, like wherever you wanted the bar, he would put it to you.
I
And
would imagine.
yeah, he was like 6'11", like 405 pounds. And I just talked to him a couple years ago. He's down to 230, and he's playing bass in a jazz band somewhere. So
That's cool.
something with the musical stuff with old powerlifters. I don't know.
Yeah, I did not know that. I thought you were the anomaly. That's interesting.
Exactly. So but I don't get to see a lot of those guys. I talk to Steve Goggins still. A few of the old guys when I get a chance. Facebook makes stuff a lot easier, as you know,
Sure.
to touch with people you haven't seen for a while. But
Well,
just busy with work and getting back in over shape and whatever, man. Just living a pretty and now like everyone else, just pretty quiet life right now with everything going on. Everyone trying to find stuff to do and whatever. And I just try to. Well, I'm off work right now, which a lot of people are. So I'm off work, so I got time to train, and I've been cooking my own meals. Which before I never did that. Like I'm making chicken and broccoli and whatever, and so I'm actually starting to enjoy it now. Whatever. I never really cooked like that before.
good.
I'd always go eat and stuff. So you learn a little bit as you go.
Using your
That's
time as a resource. I like it.
right. Right. That's it. So that's really about it, man. You have
Okay.
any other questions or?
I think we're good, man. I appreciate it very much, and I will. I'll message you when we put it up. Okay.
Okay, dude, I really appreciate it, man. I
Yeah.
had a great
It was an
talking.
honor. It was something I've wanted to do for a while, and I really appreciate you coming on here. Thank you very much.
Buddy, I appreciate it.
All right,
God
buddy.
bless.
I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, Joshua.